On SportsCenter, Saints quarterback Derek Carr has retired. As senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler joins us now. He had revealed that he had actually injured his shoulder late in last season, was contemplating surgery. So how did he come to this decision?
Yeah, Hannah, really for the last 5 to 6 weeks, the Saints and Derek Carr have been trying to figure out what's best and how to proceed with this shoulder issue, which tests revealed, as the Saints just said, a labral tear and degenerative damage to his rotator cuff, potentially. So these are major issues. You imagine trying to throw on that. So really before then, the feeling was like, hey, we restructured his contract. We can move forward with Derek Carr, even though there was some talk about a potential trade at one point. That never happened. So it seemed at one point in the offseason he was going to be the quarterback in 2025. So really when he started throwing again, then he felt the issue, talked to the Saints, reported it. They tried to shake this out. I think the Saints in a perfect world hoped that he could maybe rehab to health. It just seems like that was not in the cards. So after 11 seasons, he is retired.
Wow. Big picture, looking at his career, how would you describe his legacy?
His legacy is probably underrated in a lot of ways. I've actually recently talked to people with the Raiders and with the Saints, because I was trying to get a grasp of his career because of all the turmoil around what was going on with the Saints and the uncertainty here, which eventually resulted in this. And the feeling was, he constantly had different head coaches. He constantly had different coordinators. We saw again, last year he was close with Clint Kubiak, his offensive coordinator. Now Kubiak leaves, Kellen Moore in. He always was dealing with constant change. And really he's viewed as a very talented quarterback, a very good quarterback, maybe not a breakthrough quarterback that got you over the hump. And I think the Raiders felt that, like, hey, we gave it a run. It just didn't work overall in the end. But very productive player, always a consummate professional. And played, he was a tough guy. He played through injuries. It took this kind of serious injury to eventually knock him out. But most every year he was 15, 16 games in.
Yeah, and through very difficult times with the Raiders, he often had to speak on behalf of the organization and handled that really well. I just want to say they have 3 guys now, right? So they draft Tyler Shuck, and the second round they have Spencer Rattler. They have Jake Haener. Who's the next quarterback of the Saints? What's it looking like?
Well, Shuck, with his experience, played a lot of years in college. He's older, in his mid-20s. He was coveted by a lot of teams in the draft, picked 40th overall. He's got higher billing than, say, Spencer Rattler, who right now would be the backup or maybe the 1A, but he was a 5th-round pick. Some people in the building are high on Rattler as well, so they're going to play this out. It's been interesting, the existence in the Saints quarterback room and offensive rooms lately, because they thought maybe Derek Carr could play, but they really were just talking to him more as a person than they were like game planning. So Carr really hasn't been a part of a lot of the football talks of late. So it's been like young guys in a quarterback room trying to mold that room together, see what they can do. And Tyler Shuck, they're really high on him. Assuming things go well in the next 3 or 4 months, there's no reason why he can't see the field in 2025 because of the pedigree and experience he already comes in with.
I mean, not see the field. What about, is this a guy that it's thought could start from week 1?
They hope so. I mean, the Saints did a ton of work on quarterbacks in the draft. They looked hard at Jackson Dart, but felt like number 9 overall would be a little high for them, where they were picking in the 1st round. So early 2nd round, they targeted Shuck, who has got some arm strength. He's got some major ability.
Yep. All right. Derek.
The NFL, where New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr has announced his retirement. The team says Carr was dealing with a torn labrum in his shoulder as well as a damaged rotator cuff. Carr was a 2nd-round pick by the Raiders back in 2014, and he spent the past 2 seasons in New Orleans. He finishes his career as a 4-time Pro Bowler with more than 41,000 career passing yards and 257 total touchdowns. Carr did release a statement this morning, reading in part, quote, "Upon reflection of prayer and in discussion with Heather, I've decided to retire from the National Football League. For more than 11 years, we have been incredibly blessed, and we are forever grateful and humbled by this experience." Let's talk about it with our NFL analyst, Charles Davis. Charles, thanks for the time this morning. I know you spent a lot of time with the Saints over the years. Was this a surprise to you hearing this news?
It really wasn't, Haley, and I know it's easy to say it in the aftermath, right? When they say hindsight is 20/20. But I was recently, privy to a conversation just a few days ago, and I wasn't going to reveal anything or come out. I'm not a scoop guy, but there was conversation that was a possibility. And Derek Carr has been through a lot with injuries. We know that, right? And last year had the wrist, and it turned out to be a shoulder as well. I think surgery was on the table, and I'm not sure he wanted to go through all of that. So when you put all the factors together, you saw it in his statement, 11 years playing, the injuries he has now, do you want to climb that mountain one more time? Because it certainly seemed like surgery was going to have to be necessary. And I'm not sure he wanted to go through that. I'm not talking to Derek Carr. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but it's certainly from the outside, having seen this happen many times before, that is something you ask yourself, especially as a veteran player.
Yeah, and again, no speculation, but it is no surprise if you're at the age that he is at and having away surgery, and that just doesn't impact your playing, that impacts your life as well. So it is certainly a personal decision that you have to make there. As we flip the page to the current Saints in 2025, we know they got a handful of quarterbacks, and we'll get to that in a minute. But just your initial thoughts here on where the Saints go from here. They were not very good last year after a great start. They were 5-5 with Derek in the mix, 0-7 with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener behind center here. What do the Saints go from here?
Well, Haley, you cover this league well as I do. And, you know, I know you've had some thoughts about Tyler Shuck being drafted, so it probably didn't surprise you that the announcement of a retirement. Look, at the least the Saints were saying, we know Derek Carr is going to have to do rehab, and we don't know how long he'll be out. So you hedge your bets and draft another quarterback, right? Now the retirement is there. You've drafted a rookie who's been injury prone through his entire career, save his last year at Louisville. So hopefully he can stay healthy. But at the same time, as soon as his name came off the board, if Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener are the kids I think they are, they immediately went and started working out. They immediately went right to the gym. They immediately went and started throwing passes, because this is going to be a pitch battle now for starting quarterback. And Haley, how many times have we seen a rookie quarterback get drafted? But typically a team has an old head already on the roster, right? They have a veteran player that's going to be there that maybe can play and stopgap things till the rookie is ready, and then is there to mentor him. Here you have no mentors. You had 2 second-year players who had limited success, and you got a rookie coming into the league. And by the way, he's probably the oldest. He's 26 years old, 3 schools, 4 different college degrees. He may be the old head in the quarterback room. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Saints, Kellen Moore, Mickey Loomis, or GM do. Do they try and find a veteran somewhere to help them bridge the gap?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my follow there. For a guy like Kellen Moore, who has a history of connecting with quarterbacks, we saw it in Dallas with his relationship with Dak Prescott. And you mentioned the lack of experience on that quarterback roster. That's funny to think that Tyler Shuck is the oldest. But when you think about Aaron Rodgers potentially, right, or even Kirk Cousins, we've linked him to that move to the Steelers. But does this maybe sound a little bit more interesting for one of those guys?
I think no for Rodgers, because I think if you're Rodgers at this stage, you're thinking true contender, someone you think that maybe I can make that difference and get them there. I'm not sure he could look at the New Orleans situation and feel that way right now. Could he? Yeah, but I doubt it, right? I still think Pittsburgh is much more likely if indeed he does it. Because remember, for Aaron, he has retirement as an option as well, and we've heard about that, right? Kirk Cousins is even more problematic because it's now a trade situation. What would New Orleans want to give up in order to get Kirk Cousins for this time frame? And Kirk Cousins, the first thing he's going to say is, I'm coming in to be the starter, but you already drafted another rookie. Remember, this happened to me last year in Atlanta. I really don't want to go through that again. So that's a whole nother situation. Because, Haley, we're taking the trading in division where everyone goes, you don't trade in division. That's kind of out the window, isn't it? People trade in division all the time now. I just think it's more problematic about the compensation, what you'd give up. And I think that Kirk Cousins would have some